Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and welcome to the Pick Six, the podcast by the Attractions Group, where we bring you the latest top stories from the attractions and amusement industry.
Now, before we delve into this week's Pick Six, let me remind our listeners, especially those that may be listening for the first time, where you can find us. You can tune into the Attractions Group podcast on your favorite podcast apps. You can like us and follow us on Facebook, X, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube. Ryan, what's first?
Let's start at the beginning at story number one. So we're going to the Orlando area, Kissimmee particularly, and it looks like there's going to be a 2026 debut for the Nickelodeon Hotels and Resorts Orlando in Kissimmee, Florida, which will be home to a water park, more than 400 hotel rooms, condos, retail stores, restaurants, and the opportunity to meet characters from the Nickelodeon franchises such as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, SpongeBob SquarePants, and Paw Patrol. The resort, located in the Everest Place complex, is a partnership between Paramount, Lionstar Hospitality, and Everest Place. So this is not the first Nickelodeon hotel in the Orlando area. In fact, I'm pretty sure this picture is from the old one that was actually in Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the photo, though, I mean, when you have hotels that have this many different, things going on, you might not even have to go to the parks to have a great week of vacation in the Orlando area.
Yeah, from what I understand, I mean, we can only base what's going on with the new one based off the old one until we get further information. Obviously, they're going to have to put a lot more effort into it just because the landscape has changed. But the water park is clearly the star of the show, which is great for this, Central Florida area. But also, they have the meet and greets and stuff. But the main thing that I would have liked to have seen when I was, I guess, kind of younger, as in my 20s, I guess, was they had the time capsule that was originally in front of Nickelodeon Studios in Universal Orlando. When Nickelodeon Studios moved out of there and moved to Burbank, they moved it to the Nickelodeon Resort. When it went from being a Nickelodeon Resort to something else, it was removed. And I don't necessarily know. I've heard maybe it's buried in Burbank now, but it'd be cool if they moved it to the new one.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right, what's next?
Kennywood, recently named one of the USA Today top 10 theme parks, has unveiled its all-new Potato Smash attraction. This classic bumper car ride has been completely transformed and themed after Kennywood's iconic fresh-cut potato patch fries. Ryan, if you haven't had those before, they're amazing. Potato Smash features 20 new cars, each designed to resemble the park's signature snack, complete with fries, oozing cheese sauce, and an oversized fork. This new appealing attraction perfectly blends Kennywood's modern thrills with its cherished traditions.
The cars are making me hungry, I have to admit. If you're listening to the audio version of this Pick Six here tonight, you're missing out, because
those cars look amazing, and
they look great.
Look how fun those look.
I know. Yeah, they're like, you're literally smashing potatoes in the bumper cars. I love Kennywood's, like, they and not Dollywood, they and Holiday World have the best, like, sense of humor between that and, like, Good Gravy and stuff. It'd be funny if we had, like, a 10-year trend of everybody naming like major attractions after food.
Well, I like they let their guests, be involved in the naming of this attraction.
Yeah, and they made a memorable thing out of it too. So no regrets with that. Next up, we are heading up to Sandusky, Ohio, the pleasure capital of the North. I just made that up. So on Tuesday, Cedar Point's Director of Communications, Tony Clark, appeared on Sandusky's WCPZ radio to discuss this season's latest attractions and activities. Cedar Point Shores Water Park opened this past weekend, kicking off all of its live entertainment. Clark addressed the recent removal of 2 water slides from the cross-current slide complex, noting that the larger plunge slide remains. While not confirming specifics, he suggested that improvements might be made next year in 2025 to Cedar Point Shores. Regarding the status of Top Thrill 2, which is the question on everybody's mind, Clark mentioned that Zamperla is close to resolving the issue and assured that the closure is not an entire summer thing, with updates expected soon. So I'm sure Cedar Point is very much hurting and want this ride open more than any enthusiast. So hopefully they can get this hammered out and have some really solid reliability once it's passed.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't want to see it happen, but you're not surprised it happened because of the magnitude of this ride. And it's like I said, it's first time Zamperla has done something of this magnitude and that. So it's great that while they haven't said what the problem is, they've identified what the problem is. They're working on that. They have a resolution, and hopefully we see it back in operation soon.
Agreed. Moving along.
New York City's iconic and historic Luna Park in Brooklyn opens its newest attraction, Electric Eden Raceway. That was this Memorial Day when it opened up, introducing the first ever electric-powered go-karts in New York City. It offers an adrenaline-fueled ride for eco-conscious fun and innovation. I'm going to be there in early August, and looking forward to taking a drive on these.
A lot of these like Coney Island parks are real classic, and it's cool because they're not classics as in like they're a bunch of like rough wood coasters, but like they're 100-year-old parks. They have some of the old wood coasters, but they also aren't afraid to add new stuff. Like Dino's Wonder Wheel added that Vekoma Family Flyer and stuff. So that's a real attractive place to go for people that want to travel up. There's a lot to do in New York, and this is a good excuse to go.
I'm a big go-kart fan. When I'm visiting East Tennessee, they got several of those on the Parkway and that you're going to run into. And as you get into Pigeon Forge, that you're going to see. So I make sure that I try to do those on every visit just because they're just fun.
Yeah. The ones in Tennessee are some of the best. They're super fast and stuff. The ones at Fun Spot Kissimmee are some of the faster ones too. I really like those. But these look exciting. The newer technology is usually faster and more thrilling and stuff because they can do that more safely with newer technology, obviously. But
yeah, but it looks cool. Looking forward to it when I'm in New York in August.
Perfect. So moving along to some sad news. So Richard Sherman, who alongside his late brother Robert created some of the most iconic songs in children's entertainment, he died Saturday at the age of 95. Over the course of their career, the brothers won 2 Oscars for their work on Disney's 1964 hit Mary Poppins, snagging Best Score and Best Song for Chim Chim Cheree. The duo also won a Grammy for Best Movie or TV Score for the same film. Don, what's your favorite Sherman Brothers song?
I'd have to go with what you just mentioned, Mary Poppins, because it's the most memorable to me because I watched Mary Poppins many times over the years. So I would have to go with that, the Chim Chim Cheree.
My favorite is one that probably most people don't know that they wrote, and this is not a lie, but they wrote One Little Spark from Journey into Imagination. That's my favorite of their songs because now everybody listening to the show that's ridden the ride has that song stuck in their head. But yeah, so rest in peace to them. 95 years old, but 95 very good quality years with some just fantastic work that he gave the world. So thank you for your contributions and rest in peace, Richard. All right.
Well, the opening date for Rock and Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith at Walt Disney World has been confirmed. Initially scheduled for July 27th, 2024. The operating calendar now lists the attraction as open that day from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. for early theme park entry, and the rest of the day from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for all guests. The roller coaster closed on January 8th, 2024 for routine refurbishment, with plans to reopen this summer. It remains unclear if any significant changes have been made to the ride. Back in 2023, the attraction also underwent refurbishment from February to May, reopening with no major changes at that time.
Yeah, the rumor going around is that they're removing Aerosmith, but that's like the intellectual property that is Aerosmith, but that's been the rumor for like 10 years. So I think that they would have made a statement by now if that were the case. But this ride reminds me a lot of Flight of Fear at Kings Island and Kings Dominion. It's different manufacturers, but man, the look and feel of it is very similar, although the themes could not be more different,
Correct.
But,
yeah, it's a fun ride. One of my favorite rides at Walt Disney World.
Is it really? Because for me, it's like, even at Hollywood Studios, like I feel like it really gets clouded by, like it gets overshadowed by Tower of Terror, Rise of the Resistance, stuff like that. Because it's such a weird dynamic where this one is just a roller coaster. Because like at every other park, the roller coaster is the star of the show, but at Disney and Universal, a roller coaster is kind of like a baseline thing. But this one, obviously, it's very Disney-fied. The experience is just incredible. And, you got that whole part in the studio going in, and then you have the Aerosmith songs while you're riding. So I'm looking forward to it reopening. I don't know when my next trip to Disney is going to be, but it may not be until the fall. So I'll have to ride it then.
All right.
Cool. So you want to move along to the listener question. I'll read the first one. This is Claude Leduc from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Don, I enjoyed your recent article about the backward racer at Kings Island in Ohio. You mentioned that you were on the first train of the press event introducing the experience. By any chance, did you also ride the last backward train?
Yes, I did. It was not known at the time to the public that 2007 was going to be the last season for the backward racer. I found out about it during Halloween Haunt of that season. I was what they called bare bones nights, and I was working the basketball game by the racer, and there were some Cedar Fair officials that were there at the time, and they came up to just see how it was going that night at the basketball game, and one of them pointed over to the racer and mentioned to me that I understand you're pretty familiar with this ride, and I said yes. They asked me what side was my favorite, and I said I liked it better when both sides went forward. And they said, well, good, because you're going to have to deal with it next year when I turn it back around. So that's my first indication that it was going to be turned back around, because no one had mentioned anything about it. At that time, when I asked around the park to some different people in management, they didn't know that was definitely happening or anything. So there wasn't that opportunity for guests to come get their last rides or anything. But because I had, I guess, kind of been tipped off about it, a few days later was the final operating day of the 2007 season. I want to say it was, I'm going to say October 28th. It was a Sunday for sure, but October 28th kind of rings a bell for me. And I just made sure that I, stuck around that day. And at the end of the night, just, kind of went up in the station, and when it was the last train, hopped in. There was me and maybe 10 or 11 other people on the train. And that was the last cycle of the backward racer.
Very sad. All right. Next question is John from Fort Worth, Texas. Do you think the Six Flags Cedar Fair merger closes in June?
I don't know.
I don't either. It's funny because it's this should be a softball question, but we haven't heard anything in a long time, and it's almost June. So
it's been pretty quiet.
But do you think we would be hearing stuff if it was going to close in the next 45 days or so? I mean, I don't know.
I'm surprised that we're not hearing anything about it, but this is, kind of foreign territory, to us. A lot of the mergers and acquisitions are in industries that you and I don't really pay a whole lot of attention to, with like hotels and restaurant chains and those kind of things. So, it takes time, they're doing their due diligence. What I do know is that both chains seem to be, business as usual in terms of what they're doing and what they're planning. And, it's just full speed ahead. And I guess, when the merger happens, it happens. But they're operating as if, nothing has changed right now. So I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice, to finally get some closure to it, I guess, not only for the guests who are wondering what's going to happen, but also, if you're working for Six Flags or Cedar Fair, I think you kind of want to know what's going on. I mean, that has to be weighing on you a little bit.
Yeah, it's got to be terrible. And I mean, every employee is business as usual. Nothing's going to change. Yeah, that's not true. And mergers always bring some sort of change, sometimes for the better, very often for the better, but sometimes for the worse.
No, but what has me excited about this one, though, is that there are a lot of things that Six Flags does very well, and some things better than Cedar Fair, and vice versa. A lot of things Cedar Fair does very well, better than the Six Flags parks. And you merge those two together, take the best practices from each chain, and I think that makes for a better guest experience for everybody.
We shall see. It'll be interesting to do because we're gonna, especially Tower Topics, but this podcast as well. We're gonna have a lot of opportunities to talk about the merger and what it means and what's publicly released and so on. But I'm looking,
and we can promise you, we're gonna have people a lot smarter than Ryan and I on the Attraction Group podcast to talk about it.
Well, But the thing though, it's like even having people on, even if we had like a merger expert or something, what does it matter? Because all that matters is the end user experience from our standpoint. So if, we've got Dennis Spiegel on and people like that, that's like, nothing's going to change except they may say Six Flags on the cups. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's true. Maybe the foundation will be fundamentally different of how they operate the parks. We just don't know yet. And like I said, I think that it's going to be very interesting to do that. This year's 2024 is it's recording. So like the end of 2025, doing an episode on like, okay, it's been a year, this merger's gone through, like what's it look like now? Right. They're going to give us plenty of content on the other podcasts, basically, is what you're telling me. Cool. Hey, John, thank you for that question. That's a great question. But make sure you follow us on all your favorite podcast apps, Apple, Google, Spotify, you know the drill. We do a video version on YouTube, so hop on there and hit that subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. And follow us on X at attractions_GRP. We'll see you next week, everybody.